SMG3 has had his fair share of developments throughout the series, and personally I think he's one of my favorite characters just from the sheer amount of how much this one specific character has been through. Unlike Meggy, who most of her character arcs were planned out, SMG3 seems to be entirely written by complete accident. I guarantee you, at the end of the YouTube arc, SMG3 was probably never meant to return again, at least for an extremely long time. However, he was brought back for the Genesis arc, which caused yet another character arc for him to go through. Today, we'll be taking a look back on SMG3's character as a whole and how this accidental story writing made the most fascinating character for the entire series. Make sure to like and subscribe. Enjoy the video. SMG3 made his debut in the SMG4 video SMG4 vs SMG3, originally airing on October 30th, 2011. In this original video, SMG3 gets caught by Mario because he was ripping off SMG4's videos and uploading them to YouTube, such as War of the Fat Italians. Eventually, SMG3 is stopped by getting a paper cut, but he does plan on coming back, which he inevitably did. Throughout the years, SMG3 became known as the main villain of the series, and has had many interesting plot points and episodes surrounding him, such as him being responsible for the creation of Z-Star? Z-Star? One of my favorite episodes of him was in the episode of Snow Trap, where SMG4 and SMG3 get stuck in an igloo together and it is up to Mario to get them out. SMG3 never really had a motivation of being evil at this point in the series. It seems like he just wanted to kill Mario and SMG4 because he felt like it. There was no writing to this guy, he was just evil for the sake of being evil. SMG3 is a very interesting character because upon his introduction to the series, he never really had that much of a background. There wasn't much of a character to him other than just being evil. The question is, how do you make a character development for a character with no premise or thesis? Surprisingly enough though, the Glitch production crew somehow managed to make it work unintentionally by making character development and character individuality for a character whose original personality was just being evil. SMG3's character development began in the Waluigi Arc unintentionally. At the end of the Waluigi Arc, SMG3 made an appearance, and was the one to make Waluigi and Wario make up after their long troubles by being a therapist for them. This was completely unintentional, as originally, as stated in the Waluigi Arc follow-up video, they were going to use a Dr. Phil model and make a bootleg Dr. Phil show. It was because of the fans though that the change from Dr. Phil to Dr. SMG3 came into light. The Waluigi Arc was the first arc in the entire series, featuring a new villain and high-stakes battles that have yet to ever been shown in the series at the time. As the arc was progressing, many people at the time thought that Waluigi may end up being the new main villain of the series, so fans thought it would be cool for SMG3 to end up being the one to defeat Waluigi in the end. There wasn't any reason as to why they thought this, other than SMG3 being the main villain in the series up until this point. Luke and Kevin actually saw these fan theories and they gave in to swapping out Dr. Phil to Dr. SMG3 instead. This is the moment where the first tiny ounce of character depth began for SMG3. It was revealed during this moment that SMG3 actually had a psychiatrist degree before becoming evil. Obviously, this was thrown in there because it originally was going to be Dr. Phil. Giving this degree and therapy show to SMG3 was the first sign of depth to this character, whereas prior, he was only thrown into the show when they needed a villain for an episode. At the time, however, it looked like this show wasn't going to be expanded on, and it was just thrown in there for laughs and was a one-time gag, especially when the next episode he appeared in was Mad Mario, where SMG3 stole all the internet just because, well, he was evil. However, the writers decided to expand on the Dr. SMG3 show concept after the anime arc. Keep in mind, at this time, any character development for SMG3 still wasn't planned. In SMG4 The Day in the Life of Everyone, SMG3's show ends up getting cancelled, which causes him to revert back to his evil ways and trying to get revenge on SMG4 by kicking SMG4 in the testicles. In fact, him reverting back to his evil ways is soon followed up by a multitude of episodes of him stealing SMG4's account by sneaking into Area 51. I actually have a separate theory that the YouTube arc was originally supposed to start here, because there was a lot of episodes here that involved YouTube and SMG3. I speculate that the YouTube arc didn't happen here because for one, it was too close to the anime arc, and for two, Meggy's Splatfest character arc was still going on at this time. But yeah, also during this time, Greg was introduced as a character in the same field of episodes where SMG3 hacks SMG4's account, and yeah, we all know how that went in the YouTube arc. Anyway, even during this small section of episodes, SMG3 still was just being evil for the sake of being evil. There wasn't actual depth to his character, and the only depth we were given to him was now being stripped away. At the time, I think SMG3 was probably the most underdeveloped character at this point, and the writers didn't really know what to do with him other than just experiment and see what works. Fast forward a year later, and the YouTube arc begins, and Oh boy, finally, SMG3 was finally given a main role in an arc, and finally getting some character death. Sort of. Instead of going down the route of his psychiatrist degree previously introduced in the series, during the YouTube arc, SMG3 actually goes back to his roots, simply by copying SMG4, but this time on a whole new unseen level, by literally copying his entire cast. Now, I'm not that big of a fan of the YouTube arc, for reasons I won't get into, but one of the things I like about this arc is that it actually gave SMG3 some kind of a character background, and it was in the first episode. Apparently during, I guess, meme school, SMG3's reasoning of him being evil was just from jealousy, which actually makes complete and perfect sense for his character. Before, we never really knew why SMG3 was evil, but this small moment in the episode defines his character tremendously well. These small couple of scenes provide depth to his character, without taking away the original source material that his character previously established. You can still look back on these old episodes and think he's just being evil, but now with the knowledge of him being evil because of just raw jealousy, it makes the story just infinitely better, by not just providing clearance to his past, but also providing roots for the YouTube arc that was just about to unfold. Surprisingly enough though, despite the YouTube arc being focused around SMG3, he doesn't seem to have seen very much character development during this arc. In this arc, he's the main antagonist, yeah, but for the most part, he's roughly the same character as from when the arc started and when the arc ended. At the end of the arc, SMG4 said that SMG3 actually died from Ugandan Knuckles, and it looks like this may have actually originally been the case. We know this because you can tell the writers are writing arc by arc, based on how the formatting of each arc goes. It wasn't until James, the voice actor of SMG3, confirmed on Twitter that SMG3 was going to return in future videos. However, in a Hobo Rose video, it was expressed that Luke and Kevin didn't even know themselves that SMG3 was going to return. So, this one tweet from the voice actor actually sprung up SMG3's inevitable return. But if you take a look back on the YouTube arc, as much as I don't like this arc, I'm actually satisfied with how this arc handled the ending. If SMG3's character arc ended here and he actually died, I would be satisfied. I think this arc was great for his character, and even though he came into and out of it roughly the same, I think just having an arc surrounded by this lovable character was great enough, and providing closure as to why he was evil for all these years was perfect for his character. So ending his character after getting that closure? Yeah, I think that's actually pretty satisfying. SMG3 returned pretty soon right after the end of the YouTube arc, in the form of a flashback in SMG4 Textures Not Found. I won't elaborate too much on this episode because I just don't think it does really anything to the overall story, but the reason I bring it up is because this was perhaps the writer's way of bringing back SMG3 and him only appearing in flashbacks in the future. But the writers of the show thought that perhaps SMG3 still has a lot of potential as a character to grow. Growth that was absent during the YouTube arc, which was an arc that was centered around him, especially because at this time, they were developing ideas for the Genesis arc, and writing the new SMGs to appear during that arc. So bringing back SMG3 made a whole lot of sense, and since James already laid the groundwork for him to return in the future, they already could bring him back at any time they should desire. SMG3's official return debuted in SMG4 Perfectly Balanced, where we actually get to learn as to what happened to SMG3 after the YouTube arc. Surprisingly enough, this video alone provided more character development for SMG3 than the entirety of the YouTube arc. We learn what SMG3 has been up to inside of the internet graveyard, and of course the life cycle of memes. Now, instead of SMG3 trying to copy and kill SMG4 for the simple fact of jealousy, he's now more tame. SMG3 is now the internet graveyard's #1 celebrity, and he's now living out the dream that he had back in meme school about being popular. This is the massive shift in SMG3's character. Before, we've only known SMG3 for simply being evil and copying SMG4's videos. Now his character has nearly completely changed, and this is just the start. I think the 10-year anniversary special is definitely the video where SMG3 received the most amount of character development in the entire Genesis arc. In this movie, SMG4 and SMG3 are trapped in the dark web without much certainty of escape, and with a giant evil lurking in the background. While SMG4 wants to get back to Zero to save Mario, SMG3 doesn't necessarily care and just wants to go back to the internet graveyard with his dead memes. However, he can't do that without SMG4's help by turning corrupted memes back to normal, so SMG3 is forced to help SMG4. These dark web scenes are perfect for SMG3's character, and showcases perfectly as to how far SMG3 has come since the YouTube arc. In fact, these scenes are just a small glimpse as to what we would get in the latter half of the Genesis arc. Throughout the remainder of the Genesis arc episodes, SMG3 continues to go through character growth. Even though he seems to only be doing this to get back to the internet graveyard initially, it seems he's actually gone to kind of like SMG4, as showcased in the War of the Fat Italians 2021. SMG3 offered to help if another event like Zero ever happened again, and SMG4 offered to train their meme powers together. The best symbolization of this is definitely how Guardians control meme energy. Having to hold hands to concentrate meme energy in order to solve certain problems is near perfect writing, and perfect symbolization of how SMG3 and SMG4's relationship has completely changed in this arc. Them holding hands was definitely intended by the writers to showcase how far SMG3 has gone. In fact, if the two didn't even learn this ability in the first place, Mario would have never been able to pin Zero down and for Melony to deliver the final blow. I personally like to look at these final moments of the arc and just think how different SMG3 is compared to in the YouTube arc. It's almost like he's an entirely new character, and the new death assigned to him is perfect for his originally written character. Having a long-lasting antagonist of the series for such a long time, finally joining up with the protagonist is always a treat to see in writing. I'm going to be honest, this is one of the best villain character arcs I've seen in a long time, especially because it was all by accident, and none of the developments showcased were ever planned. Thank you for watching, and check out my SMG0 theory.